Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to be diving into Ghost of Yotei, the highly anticipated follow up to Ghost of Tsushima from 2020. This game had a lot to live up to, and I ended up spending about 50 hours exploring everything that this game had to offer, from its story to its world design, its combat, and all the game mechanics. Today we're going to be breaking this down into three simple sections: the good, the bad, and is this game actually worth its value? So let's get right into it. Starting strong with the positives in this game, Ghost of Yotei absolutely nails the gameplay loop. This is one of the easiest and strongest parts of the experience. I found myself not getting bored while I was playing this game, and even though I invested over 50 hours into it, I found myself having a good time. This is whether I was exploring the landscape, doing side missions, taking down enemy camps, or just doing anything that the massive game has to offer. I never found myself getting bored of the actual gameplay. There are aspects of the game that did bore me, but when it came to the actual gameplay loop, I found myself having a good time the entire time. In addition to an absolute banger of a gameplay loop, this game has excellent visual fidelity. The game looks stunning, and the draw distance is absolutely insane. You can see mountains, forests stretching out for miles, and this game is significantly bigger than Ghost of Tsushima. When the lighting hits just right, it looks great. I will say there are some parts of the game that don't look nearly as impressive and were actually very underwhelming and somewhat disappointing. But most of the game, while you're going around, is very cinematic, and the game knows this by taking specific time to outline certain features that look great while exploring Ezo. Due to the large scope of this game, fast travel was very important to me. I did not want to spend a lot of time traveling around on my horse just trying to get from destination to destination. Not only are there a lot of fast travel points in this game, but they're also really good with load times. The load times have never been more than 1 or 2 seconds, and although there were occasional times where it took a little longer to load, I was very impressed with how quickly I could travel throughout all 5 regions of Ezo. This is very important because I do not even own a PS5 Pro, I'm operating on a standard PS5. One of the original complaints that I had in the opening hours of this game was that it was just more of the same of Ghost of Tsushima. I often found that Tsushima was actually better in some aspects, but I can say that more of the same is not a bad thing here. I found that Ghost of Yotei uses a lot of the same mechanics and ideas from Ghost of Tsushima, but it also does it very well. Just because you have something that worked well in 2020 does not mean it cannot work good in 2025. With that being said, there are absolutely some innovation. And I want to emphasize the word some. There's not a lot of new things here, but the new things that they add do mostly work. One of the things I want to point out is the UI design. When you open up the map, they almost have this trading card layout that helps you pop from location to location or objective to objective. And I found this to be something that I have never really experienced before in any other game. Especially with Ezo being so much bigger than Tsushima, I found that this was a great way for me to not only stay organized, but also keep on track with what I was trying to do with my side quests or the main storyline and figure out how to advance. Another massive win for this game is the armor and dye system. There are so many great armors and different dyes that you can get for these armors that make it feel like a personalized experience. I will say that some of these armors have some weird benefits to them, and there's no way to mix or match benefits. So, if you like the way one armor looks, but you don't really like the benefits it gives you based off your playstyle, it's not really conducive for you to wear it. I did find that the upgrade system was very easy and conducive, but I always found that the original version of these armors without the upgrades were the best look. And luckily, there is a way for you to use the downgraded version of the armor while also maintaining all the attributes of the upgrade armor. There are so many different dye stations throughout the land of Ezo, and being able to use these to your advantage to give you different looks on your character was so refreshing, especially with the visual fidelity in this game. I really felt like I was able to customize how Atsu looked throughout the game. And my final good for this game is the DualSense controller features. Originally, when I had seen these features, I felt that they were a little rudimentary. They're almost gimmicky. From there, I also found that it was almost a few years too late. You're using very simple things such as the touchpad to be able to draw on a painting slab, or using the triggers to be able to slowly blow a fire and then have that fire burst up into flames for warmth. I found that that was very useful and different, even if it was a little too late. It's a nice touch and something I haven't seen a lot of games capitalize on, but being this is a first party Sony exclusive, I'm glad that they're taking advantage of their superior technology. Transitioning very hard from all the goods that Ghost of Yotei has to offer, we're going to transition to the bads, and I have to emphasize that there are a lot more bads than I originally anticipated with this game. One of the best aspects of Ghost of Tsushima was the story. I found myself consistently involved with exactly what was happening with Jin Sakai, and I found myself very tied to his character and the decisions that he had to make as he was being morally questioned, as he was pulled in different directions from his background as a samurai and what was needed of him as he was trying to liberate his island. The Ghost of Yotei story overall is just very mid. There's very little good to talk about, although there is very little bad to discuss, it's very forgettable. Atsu is one of the biggest reasons for that. I feel like her drives and motivations are very clear, but there's no growth for her throughout the entirety of the story. I feel like she starts with a goal, she is given a little bit of a pushback on that goal, and then she ultimately finishes her goal and has very little growth or development throughout that, regardless of how many important people she meets or the different missions that she goes on. The character development overall just falls very flat. There's very little development or growth for anybody in this story, and I feel like as they're introduced, they're either quickly written off and never seen again, or they just stay exactly where they are when we found them. And one of the most important aspects of a good story is connecting with these people and then watching them go through their story as they evolve with the circumstances surrounding them. Not getting too much into spoilers here, there is a thing called the Wolf Pack that the game has for you to see with all the different people that you interact with and how well they impact you on your journey. And this Wolf Pack is a great visual representation of the people you meet and what they can provide you. And I felt like this was going to lead to some big ultimate conclusion where all these people in the Wolf Pack come out and help you, or perhaps you revisit some of these characters to help you with a future issue, but that just never happened. These people are met, they are used, they are give you what you need, and then after that they just go away, and they're added to this wall of Wolfpack that you seldom consider. The next issue I have with this game is one of the biggest that I have with it. The game does not feel complete. There is a massive amount of jank in this game, and there are so many times where I was doing something or I was trying to enjoy the flow of what is otherwise a beautiful game, and I was stopped by some type of weird glitch or situation where I couldn't interact with what I wanted to interact with, or I could see these characters that are less important and they're so poorly modeled, or they just aren't doing what they're supposed to do. Perhaps I couldn't get on my horse when I needed to, or I couldn't get off the horse and talk to somebody because the prompt just wouldn't show up. There are plenty of times where the animation feels lazy, where the characters are doing things that they're not supposed to, or perhaps Atsu gets caught on something, or maybe a friendly player is also going on a ride along with you and they're supposed to be keeping up with you, but they just can't. I've seen a lot of reviews and very few people have talked about this jank factor. It makes me wonder if that is part of just my experience, but that is something that I did experience, and it did take me out of the immersive experience quite a bit. I think that that is heavily emphasized because of just how poor the story actually is. If I'm not able to immerse myself in the story, and I'm also not able to connect myself with the characters because the jank and the animation is just not allowing me to, it really pulls me away, and it is one of the biggest disappointments that I have with the game. The first game, and I hate to continue to tie it back to that, just did not have that jank. It was a smaller, more compact story. It was a smaller, more compact area, and I felt like they did such a great job with making that small area feel so real and so lived in. With Ezo, it is so much bigger and there's so much more to do, and it's just a much bigger project. But I feel like that same level of polish was just not reached with this bigger project. And that's a big problem for me, especially as I'm trying to enjoy this game for over 50 hours. One of the biggest issues I had with this jank factor is the jumping and climbing mechanics. I remember playing Assassin's Creed 2 when I was a child and feeling how smooth the transitions and the climbing capabilities were in that game. I understand that this is not an Assassin's Creed game and it's certainly not at the level of that game was, but the ability to climb and the smooth transitions between different ledges or how you're supposed to connect from surface to surface was just very poor. There were plenty of times where I was doing exactly what I was supposed to do, but because the camera wasn't angled in the exact correct location, I found myself falling, and then the game would reset me way further back than I wanted to be. With that, it caused me to get frustrated and again just lose the immersion or experience the high fidelity graphics or experience this great picture that they were giving in front of me because I was getting frustrated at the poor mechanics and the jank that I was experiencing. Maybe this was too much to expect, but what I was hoping for was at the end of the game, perhaps there would be some type of moment where I, as the player, could choose a direction that Atsu may go in, and that this mission that we had been going on the entire game with this ultimate goal, that perhaps all the people she met along the way and all the driving factors that impacted her, perhaps me as the player, I could help her make a decision when the actual climax occurred on how she is going to handle it. This is something that happened in Ghost of Tsushima. There was a point at the end of the game where you, as the player, got to choose whether Jin Sakai gives his mentor a samurai's honorable death or if he lets him live. And this is something that was very, very powerful and very important to the end of the story. I don't want to spoil anything, but that does not happen at the end of this game. It is heavily scripted. It happens exactly how the producers and the directors want it to happen. And even though there was no character development, it happens just the way it does. And I think that that has the conclusion just fall so flat. To really conclude this bad section, I want to reemphasize that although I did play this game for 50 hours, I was not entirely pleased with my experience. I had a great time going after and getting the platinum, and I felt that as I was playing it, doing the side missions and everything that this game had to offer was a great experience, but experiencing the game as a whole was not anywhere near where I wanted it to be. And I feel like this is definitely game breaking for a game that comes off what I would argue is a potential Game of the Year nominee for 2020. I think that as it stands, Ghost of Yotei is a fine game, but I don't think that there's anything that makes it special or shine away from its predecessor, which was published 5 years ago. With all that being said, I think everyone in the world has one of the most valuable resources, and that is time. Being able to spend our time on things is important. I spent 50 hours into this game. I did not have a bad time. I certainly had a good time at some points, and I certainly had frustrating experiences along the way. The next thing we're going to talk about is the value of this game, because not only do we have time, but we also have to be able to dig into our wallets and be able to actually accept that we're paying a certain amount for this game. This is a big game. It is also a AAA title that was really heavily anticipated, and I think that the $70 price tag is a steep one after the experience. Personally, I would struggle to give over $70 to play this game as it stands. I think there's so much jank. I think that there is such a poor story there. I think there's so much potential in this game, but I think that it just feels either lazy or undercooked. I don't think that $70 is too far off because there is so much in this game. It is beautiful. The developers know it's beautiful. They know exactly what it is, and they did try some new things while also carrying over some exceptional things from an exceptional game that this is a follow up to. I really believe that this game could be sold at a decent $60. In the current market, I would have no problem giving over $60 for 50 hours of gameplay that I mostly enjoyed. With that lack of innovation and understanding exactly what I'm walking into with the story, I think that the $70 price tag is just a bit too steep. And if you can get it on sale, Ghost of Yotei is absolutely worth your time. And make sure that you're putting in the effort to experience everything the game has to offer, even if it makes you have to get through the jank and all of the weird, awkward glitches or the side characters as they appear. But that's really it. That's all I really have to say about Ghost of Yotei. I'm really grateful that I got the chance to experience it. As I said, all of us have the most valuable resource at our fingertips. That's time. Some of us may have more of it, some of us may have less of it. But I'm very grateful that I had the chance to sit down and contribute 50 hours to this game and add it to my Platinum Trophy collection. I really think that if some of these janky aspects are fixed up, or perhaps the gameplay is made to be a little bit more smooth in the open world exploration aspect, this game could be worth more, but still I would struggle to contribute that $70 towards this experience. If you disagree with me, I'd love to hear what you have to say in the comments. I'm more than happy to interact or hear what you say. I don't think you'll change my mind, but I'm always open to hearing other people's interpretations. Or perhaps you're one of the people like me who experienced all those janky aspects or maybe those glitches that I'm just not seeing other reviewers talk about. Please let me know in the comments. I look forward to discussing with you guys, and have a great day.